Today we will discuss the increased Russian provocations and calls for the denazification of the Baltic countries. Not wanting to be caught off guard and taking this threat seriously, these countries are already taking measures to improve their security. Most recently, Sergey Naryshkin, head of Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, warned that Poland and the Baltic countries would be the first to suffer in any conflict between NATO and Russia. He accused these nations of showing high aggressiveness and claimed they were underestimating the devastating consequences of provoking Moscow. The statement echoed a wave of similarly hostile rhetoric from Russian state officials and media figures over the past 2 years. Russian officials, including former President of Russia Dmitry Medvedev, now Deputy Chairman of Russia's Security Council, have repeatedly questioned the sovereignty of the Baltic countries. Medvedev declared that the Baltic states belong to Russia and accused NATO of harboring anti-Russian intentions. State television host Vladimir Solovyov has gone even further, stating that these countries don't need independence and that their sovereignty is a joke. Such statements are not isolated. They reflect a coordinated campaign to frame the Baltics as illegitimate states and NATO's eastern flank as a battleground ripe for denazification, a chilling repeat of the Russian justification for its war on Ukraine. The term denazification is particularly troubling, as it has historically been used by Russia as a pretext for aggression. Prior to its 2022 invasion of Ukraine, Moscow framed its war aims in identical terms, alleging that Kiev needed to be cleansed of Nazis despite Ukraine being a functioning democracy with a Jewish president. Now, with similar language being used against Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania, the fear is that these statements may not be mere propaganda, but early signs of a more expansive regional strategy. From a military standpoint, the Baltic states represent a significant weakness for Russia, making them a tempting target. Kaliningrad, Russia's exclave on the Baltic Sea, is completely isolated and surrounded by NATO territory, so prominent Russian media and political figures are constantly calling for the establishment of a direct land road to Kaliningrad. Most important is the narrow Suwalki gap between Poland and Lithuania, as control over it would either sever or restore Russian land access to Kaliningrad, depending on who holds it. At the same time, since Finland and Sweden joined NATO, the Baltic Sea has become almost entirely encircled by NATO members, severely limiting Russian maritime maneuverability. Russia's Baltic fleet, already small and aging, is no match for the combined naval power of NATO states in the region. On land, the Baltic countries host forward-deployed NATO battle groups and conduct regular military exercises to prepare for rapid mobilization. These factors make any quick land grab by Russia, a tactic used in Crimea and eastern Ukraine, far less likely to succeed here. This only seems to enrage the Russian government further, fueling its hostile campaign. Russia's scare tactics extend beyond mere threats. The Kremlin actively invokes the presence of Russian-speaking populations in the Baltics, around 24% in Estonia and Latvia, as a rationale for intervention, much like it did in Ukraine. These demographics are a legacy of Soviet-era population transfers and remain a sensitive issue. Russian state media routinely portrays these ethnic Russians as oppressed and in need of protection, laying the narrative groundwork for a potential future military action. The Baltics are not ignoring these signals. They have witnessed firsthand how Russia used similar rhetoric to justify its invasion of Ukraine. What was once dismissed as empty words has become a forerunner of real war. As such, Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania are bolstering their defenses, strengthening their ties with NATO, and preparing for the possibility of battle. The line between information warfare and justification for full-scale war is growing thinner, and with every new threat from Russia, the sense of urgency increases. Overall, Russia's repeated calls for the denazification of the Baltic states and its threats of direct retaliation are viewed with the utmost seriousness by their governments. The parallels with the lead-up to the war in Ukraine are stark, and after a series of provocations in the last months, the stakes are higher than ever. For Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania, preparing for the worst is not paranoia, it's a necessity, and they are actively working to improve their security. Lastly, we're officially launching our very first summer sale. This is the best chance to support our independent Ukrainian reporting while getting a huge 50% discount on your subscription. As you know, this sale comes at a very difficult time for Ukraine. That is why right now, your support is more important than ever. By subscribing, you will not only support our efforts, but also gain access to our exclusive insights, comprehensive overviews of all fronts, and strategic geopolitics videos. If you wanted to support our efforts but never got a chance, now is the perfect moment to make a difference. So check out the link in the description to join our cause and become an exclusive member of our community. I truly appreciate everyone who stepped up to join us. Your support means the world to us.